Welcome to News and Politics Today with Renee and Calvin Boston Hill. We are here at Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM WBISLP. And I'm going to bring Calvin in right away. I'm going to say good morning to you.
Good morning, Renee. How are we doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing great. I thank God that we woke up and we have this voice out here in our community that we just try to we can't cover all the news, Calvin, in a little bit of time, but we can, give people a little insight of maybe or a little direction and maybe the things that should be of concern to them. So we're going to ask that you listen with a third ear and you listen or you look with the third eye and just become aware of what's going on around you. So we're going to start off as we usually do with the CDC update. They are saying, and I can pretty much see it, that Omicron is starting to have a slower pace. However, we have reached that horrible milestone of over 900,000 people dying from the virus. So that means, and people are still getting it. I was on Facebook this past week, and I saw that people were announcing that they had the virus. I also saw that people that we knew were dying from the virus. So people are still getting it. People are still dying. So that means that we have to make sure that we do what our due diligence. That means we need to make sure that we continue to mask up. What happened?
No, I have to change my glasses. When you get to a certain point in life, you have to change glasses sometimes.
Okay, do your thing. I just saw you smiling over there. So, we have people coming in already telling us good morning. So, and then our telephone number here at the studio is 252-756-2008. And good morning up there in New York. Good morning in St. Croix, Africa. We have people chiming in from all over. And I just want to wish everybody a very good morning. So please continue to mask up. Continue.
And you're listening to Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM. We go ahead and mask up, Renee. You got your mask on there?
I'm not going to put it on.
I can't barely hear you.
Okay, well, let me just bring the mic a little closer. But okay, so we talked about the COVID. Also, this is every day for us as Black History, but they do give us 1 month where we celebrate Black History. And we were going to talk about all the inventors for Black History, so just to let people know that will be our recognition for this particular show, is that there have been milestones and tremendous amount of things that have been invented based on Black people doing these things and being as creative as we usually are. And we wanted to just bring it to the attention of our listening audience.
Well, Renee, I'm going to talk about the air conditioning. A lot of people are using air conditioning these days, and we don't think about who invented this air conditioning. But the air conditioning unit was invented by Frederick M. Jones, and it was 1949 that he invented it. And we never think about that. We're going to talk about so many different inventors throughout this month because it's so important for our individual listeners to understand who invented certain things. For instance, the almanac. The almanac was invented by Benjamin Buckner, and that goes all the way back to 1791. Even though we were here in the United States, unwillingly, we still did a lot of things in this country to promote the well-being of everyone in this country. And now that we know about all these things, what we're going to do is continue letting you know who invented what. Like for instance, the baby buggy. The baby buggy, a lot of people, that goes back some time now. The baby buggy, Renee, was invented by William H. Richardson in 1889. So these are the things here. These inventors, these are all Black inventors, and the thing is, we want you to know that so many times we invented things, but because of the time, they would not allow us to take the credit for it. But throughout the years, we've been able to catalog who did this, and now we have the names of these inventors.
Okay, so again, that's our moment for Black History. There is a big list out there of the actual inventors and the things that they invented, um, and we want to make sure that we acknowledge. One of the things that we know that what's been going on is that they've been book banning, book burning. Okay, they've been going in and saying what can be taught, and these are parents, okay, which you should be saying what should be taught, but then you have to say, well, listen, how much information do I think my child needs? Do I need just for them to have a whitewash history, or do I need to have them a total history, which includes the Native Americans, the Black Americans, the Hispanic Americans? We need to make sure that everybody is acknowledged. So, and a lot of times, I remember when I was raising my sons, is that I made sure that they had a variety of books to read. I took as a parent my responsibility to make sure that my sons had books and that they would read. I wanted them to read. I wanted them to, because I loved to read. And that's one of the things, is that children are not seeing their parents, Calvin, reading anymore, because everybody's glued to their phones. And though you can get information on the phone, when you want to go further or in depth, but to actually see your child, see you sit down with a book in your hand, that will inspire them or give them a notion, well, maybe my mom and my dad is reading, maybe I should read also.
The reading is something that we do. I know I read a lot of books, and maybe we should start a book reading club right here, Renee. It's something to
Well,
think about.
yes,
We'll talk about it. But the thing is, you read, I read, but you see these young folks today, like you just said. I know I'm repeating you now, but sometimes it's good to repeat you. You know, they are walking around, can't see in front of them because they have their eyes head bent over right on their phones. And throughout life, what's going to end up happening is they're going to end up having neck problems. They don't realize it right now, but when I tell you they're going to have neck problems, you listen to your chiropractor. They'll tell you that, because of these phones that these young folks are having.
yes, and that's our responsibility as parents, as adults, and for us right now to make sure that we have well-rounded children. We can no longer really, until we get things better under control, we can no longer rely completely on the educational system, to educate our children. So we need to be more participants in education, because this is how our children are going to be able to flourish and grow. And when they come into the world, when they come out from under you into the world, they'll be well rounded because of the insights that you as parents had spread on to your children.
Well, really, you talk about education. I just want to bring out a couple points here. Because the educators, when I say educators, talking like teachers, they're feeling burnout, and 67%, and this is out throughout the nation, 67% of them feel burned out, and in general stress, the pandemic has caused 61% of them to feel stress. And the student absence, because of the COVID-19, is 43%. That's a lot, and the pay is, a lot of them, they don't get paid the right amount they should be paid, because 49% of them are really underpaid. So these are the things that our educators, are looking at, and they're feeling the stress that they go in, because like mask now all of a sudden is a big issue. Wearing a mask or not wearing a mask is a big issue. And I think, again, this is my own personal thoughts on this, that children and educators, if you're in the school system, in a building, you should be wearing a mask.
And that's the way it should be, not only in school systems, but if you're in a store, any kind of enclosed area, And particularly when you're not familiar with the lifestyles of the people who are you brought yourself into their environment, you need to be masked up. I know there's a controversy going on now also with truck drivers in Canada. Canada wants them to wear a mask, and they're saying no, we don't want to wear a mask. And this is where the ignorance comes in, because here it is, you're going into somebody else's space. They requested or require you to wear a mask, and you're going to say no. It's not your space. You're coming into a building, you're coming into a store, and you don't have the right to say, well, listen, I'm in your store and I'm going to fight you if you make me wear a mask. And that's what a lot of people are doing, even in some of these stores. The people who are coming in and don't want to wear a mask, those are the ones, okay, that are now challenging the workers in the stores. And so the worker will say, well, listen, I'm not going to, I need this job, but I'm not going to lose my life because this person doesn't want to wear a mask. And the mask, okay, has now become so politicized that the person who started them not to wear masks, they are wearing masks. People who are dying in the hospitals are the unvaccinated. They're still believing that the vaccine can do something to them other than give them a longer life. um, and the person who instigated that was he's fully vaccinated. So the people who are unvaccinated want to stay in that world. Meanwhile, they are still crowding up emergency rooms and ICUs because of the level of treatment. And again, we talk about the bills that will be coming if that person, once, if he survives and comes out of the hospital, he will have a hefty bill. And if he dies, then that bill will be passed on to their family.
Well, Renee, just to thinking about truck drivers, and truck stops. It's so important that they wear masks. But then what happened though is that this one lady, she works at a truck stop, and she was saying how that she used to get threatened by the truckers because she used to tell them they had to wear a mask, and they didn't want to wear the mask, so they would threaten her. So now she don't even say anything, but she wears her mask. So this is the type of mentality that we're living in these days, Renee.
Right. So thank you for repeating that.
Okay. I didn't know you had mentioned about the cashiers and
Yes.
the truck stops.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're not listening to me today. Well, anyway, our telephone number is 252-756-2008. And maybe you have some insight, or maybe you would like to share some Black history and how it has affected your life. Our number again is 252-756-2008. And we are News and Politics Today with Renee and Calvin Borston Hill. And we are here at Awesome Radio 106.9 LP WBIS 252-756-2008. Now, one of the things that we're in the temperament, and we're in the space now where starting next month, or at the end of this month, people will start to file that they want to be a candidate for various positions. Some of these, they're not going to be newly created positions. They're going to be people who might be running again in these positions, or it could, yeah, which would be an incumbent, and they're going to seek you to vote for them to keep them in their positions. Or there will be people who are not going to run again, and there will be new candidates. And this will be an opportunity for you to get involved with a person's election, a candidate's election, and your level of involvement, because it's going to be very important that we maintain control in the House and in the Senate in Washington. And the reason why I say that it's important that we maintain the control is that there were so many things that President Biden has done and still wants to do, but he's running under a lot of resistance from people in his own party. And when we talk about things, and I try to, Calvin, I try to make it so that the listening audience understands the Build Back Better bill and what it entailed, and why is it so important that we get this bill passed, because it gave actual families that have children, if they were under 6 years old, they got $300 a month. If they were over 6, they got $250 per child. And why again is that important? It's important because that money made a big difference in a lot of the families. We're trying to keep families above poverty level, and that was one access to it. The bill will also talk about drugs and how that will affect seniors, because a lot of seniors are living off a fixed income. And if they could get control over the drug prices, that would save a lot of people, because a lot of seniors, believe it or not, Calvin, they're not taking full medicine. They might have supposed to take 2 pills, and they try to stretch the medication because they can't afford the copays, or if they don't have any medical plan, they have to pay for that medicine outright to save their lives. So there's
Well, Renee, and just to add on to that, I'm not going to repeat you this time, but just to add on to that, the fact that when we were living up in New York, individual seniors used to take bus loads, and bus load of seniors and go to Canada to get their medicine. Why would we have to go to Canada to get medicine because it's cheaper there? We need to have the same prices, for our medicine right here in the United States. We are one of the richest countries in the world, but yet when it comes to our seniors, it's a whole different ballgame. Our seniors are really the backbone of this country because we've done so much for this country. And now that we become seniors, we can't get medicine at a decent price. We need to go to Canada to get our medicine. That is, it's ridiculous that we have to do that. But what we need to do is, again, reduce the price, put some kind of cap on the medicine right here in the United States. I remember there was one CEO where he raised the price of the medicine they were making 700%, which was absolutely ridiculous. We need to put a cap on some of this medicine because people that have these diseases, chronic diseases, that they have to buy medicine every month or every other week. Some of these medicines is $1,000 a month. We need to be able to afford them, but we don't need to go out of this country to get medicine, Renee.
all righty. So again, elections have consequences. But if you participate in the election process, then you can maybe get some of these things that we're talking about. Because in addition to medicine, there was so many things that the Build Back Better, it was going to be able to provide decent paying jobs for people. And these are the things that President Biden is trying to get people to see. However, he really can't do it alone. We have a responsibility also to notify our legislators, those people that have been put in place. Maybe you didn't vote for that person, so you feel that you don't have anything to participate with. But here in North Carolina, our my legislators up in Washington, they're Republicans. So do I not call them and tell them what is important to me? I'm not giving away my party, but what I am. But it's important that we notify them to say, listen, um, we need to find out what's going to happen with the John Lewis bill. Is that completely dead? Is HR1, which was very instrumental in keeping out dark money in campaigns? So I still call my senators. One is retiring or not going to be seeking re-election. That's Richard Burr, and then we have Tom Tillis, who's not up for re-election this year. But it doesn't mean that we can't talk to them and say, listen, we need for y'all to bring and introduce that bill back better. We need for y'all to have some kind of voting bill, federal bill instrumented in Washington so that it can have an effect on all these voter suppression bills that are popping up all over the country. We need to make sure that we become very verbal, and if there's a candidate that you like their platform, well, then there's so many ways that you can participate. You can volunteer for the campaign. In addition to volunteering, you can also give money. You can canvas. There's so many ways that you can participate in an election process.
This election, for everyone is so important. Every vote counts. Sometimes we talk to people, they say, oh, my vote doesn't count. Every vote counts. Not only does every vote count, but you need to check the report cards on the individuals you think you might want to vote for, because a lot of times they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear, but you need to check their voting record. That is so important. Check to see if they were absent during certain times when they needed to vote. So that's like a no vote, in my opinion. So we need to make sure that when we vote for someone, that we know that individual is going to stay true to what they said while they were a candidate. Once they're in office, it's a whole different ballgame. We need to make sure when they're in office that they're doing what they said, and by doing that, you call them and hold them to the fire. That's what we need to do, because that's what we do. We call our representatives and we leave messages. And a lot of times, Renee, people say, well, I don't want to really talk to them, but chances are, if you call them, you're not going to talk to them. You're going to either get their assistant or you're going to get a voicemail. And then you just leave a message. It's just that simple.
Right. And then you have the 5 caller apps that gives you different types of topics that you can talk to your legislator about. So there's so many options that you can be seeking and doing. However, right now, the tone and the climate, okay, is like I think sometimes, Calvin, I'm stressed because when I hear candidates that are elected officials or people who are running for positions speaking about how they want to have a civil war, they want to have ammunition, they want to do very violent things. We're living in a society, because we know after the insurrection happened, January 6th, 2021, that was a very scary time because these people were so violent at the Capitol, where they actually went after people who were put in place, like police. They went out after them. So now, if they will go to Washington and a big place with all the cameras, and we got to see what they did, um, what would make them not do something in their own local towns? Because these people came from all over, so they're actually infiltrated into various systems. And one of the things that started the insurrection was that Trump wanted to remain president. So even though he lost the popular vote, he lost the number of votes, he still felt that he was due the presidency. And in doing that, he had people in the legislators, okay, actually supporting and planning with him. He has people that was in the military, in the police, actually planning. And that's why every week it's important that we do the homework on our elected officials, because a lot of them are going to be seeking reelection. So we need to make sure that not only do we do a good background check on these legislators that are there, we put in place to work for us, but they're working as solely as a loyalist to a person who was twice impeached and lost the popular vote, and the electoral vote, this past election. And that's why President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris was elected, and they were nominated, and they were certified. But we have there was 147 legislators or House of Representatives there in Washington on January 6th, and of that, 147 of them did not vote to certify the election. And we have 7 of those people right here in good old North Carolina. And that's why they're spread out all over the place throughout the different counties. But it's important that, number one, you look deeply at that candidate who's going to be seeking re-election. It's important that and you can Google this, I did it, find out where they're getting their money from. And one of the names of the people are Richard Hudson. Okay, we also have Virginia Fox, Dave Rouser, Greg Murphy, Madison Cawthorn, Ted Budd, and Dan Bishop. Those are the North Carolina. Maybe you know the ones in your town. You want to give us a call at 252-756-2008, because it's important, okay, that because I heard this name and they've been around, that we need to know exactly where they stand on certain things. We need to make sure, well, maybe you align yourself with those kinds of people. But if you don't align yourself, then it's important that they understand that it's going to be very difficult for me to go into the booth and vote them back in. And it's the same thing with your school board. You need to know what the school boards are dealing and talking and thinking. Is my school board representative a person who is banning books, telling me to burn the books, telling me I can't have any Black history books in my child's classroom? It's important that if they start speaking that word about the critical race theory, which is nothing that is actually being taught, it's been made to be a boogeyman in to parents, because parents are listening to their legislators and not actually doing the research and the homework to know exactly what the critical race theory means and stands for.
I want to back up a little bit about something you were talking about a little earlier, Renee, and that is I want to bring up Gina Thomas. Now, who is that? A lot of people might not know that name, but I'm sure you know the name of Clarence Thomas. He's on the Supreme Court, you know, and his wife is one of the individuals that helped support the insurrection by helping individuals get to Washington. So why can't when certain cases come up, he needs to recuse himself from it because everyone out here know if you're married, and you're in the bed with your wife, well, you talk about certain things that maybe you shouldn't be talking about, and I'm saying that he needs to recuse himself on some of these cases, but we know he's not going to do it. But then I also think that the committee, January 6th committee, need to bring her in. When I say her now, I'm talking about his wife, Clarence
Gina.
Thomas' wife, Gina Thomas, to bring her in and question her, because I think it's important to know who supports this insurrection that went down on January the 6th.
And as much as people want to say that's old news, we have people, the police who were there and survived it. They're dealing with was a PTSD,
PTSD.
and so they can't forget about it. I mean, I was sitting there looking at this thing unveiled right there on TV, and I'm saying, is this for real? And it is very for real. And these people are walking around. They could be your neighbors. All right. So if your neighbor has a violent or believe that whatever they're doing or they've been instructed to do, they're they're right. Well, then it does not mean, and it's not to put fear out there, but we have to know our neighbors. We have to know exactly who is policing us. They're still killing us in the streets. So the George Floyd, another bill was never passed. Whatever happened to that bill? Because again, another young Black man, 22 years old, they did a no knock, which they were instructed not to do, but they came in and shot and murdered this man. So we need to know the actual police officer who did it. He's on desk duty, paid leave. So we need to make sure that we support our families that are dealing with the with this violence. We don't know which way it's going to come to us. So and we have judges that are elected, and some of them are siding or bypassing or not making the decisions that could have an effect on our Black communities.
Well, and, our Black communities is so, sometimes we just need to get together and talk about, who is helping us and who's not helping us. But the thing too is that, we need to be able to go to the PTA meetings. We need to go to different meetings. And I think also, Renee, that these meetings are held sometimes so early during the day where we can't go to them because we're actually working. But if they had the meetings at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the evening, then we would be able to attend these meetings, especially like the PTA, the school board meetings. Those meetings are so important. And I always say, if you have concerns and there's a vacancy, put your name in the hat, and run for that position. Because sometimes you never know. You don't have to know a whole lot about a position to enter your name to run for that position, because you'll learn as you go. That's what so many of them did.
So okay, so we want to talk about President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, and the work that they're doing. There's good job numbers. They see that salaries have gone up, and they also said that
Well, what they're doing, Renee, is a great job. A lot of people don't realize what they're doing because what I'm finding about the Democrats, they don't promote themselves the way the Republicans do. The Republicans really promote themselves in everything that they do and some things they don't do. Whereas the Democrats, they don't promote themselves the way they should. When they're doing something good, it should be out there. The president, Biden, vice president, they all should be out there letting everyone know what they're doing. Now, that bridge that fell down, well, a lot of Republicans didn't want that to be passed, but it passed. That was infrastructure.
well, the infrastructure was a bipartisan,
Bipartisan is right.
because there were some Republicans that also voted for that.
Voted for it. But see, we need to make sure that these roads and these bridges are safe. Every time I drive across a bridge now, I'm hoping that it's okay, especially when I drive across a long bridge. You got the Verrazano Bridge up in New York. You got there's Chesapeake Bay Bridge. That is a long bridge, and I can remember, Renee, when it was just one lane on each side. Now there's a double lane and there's two bridges there. Well, I hope that that bridge is taken care of properly, because I hate to be driving across it and then something happen, or not just me, anyone. We need to make sure that all the bridges in these small counties are taken care of as well.
All right, 252-756-2008. And Calvin, you're right about those bridges, because some of those bridges have been up for over 100 years, and they've done some work on them, but it doesn't mean that they cannot miss a link and that bridge can collapse.
Well, didn't one of your uncles or someone work on a bridge up in New York?
Yes, my uncle Michael, and I remember him. I was a little girl, but he worked on the Brooklyn Bridge. That story of history for me is that he was born, my grandmother, they were born in Trinidad, right? And he stored away on the ship, and that's how he got to America. And that was one of the works that they did. There probably was a lot of, I know he was not the only Black person, but it is a story that is spoken in my family, because fortunately for both sides of my family, they lived a very long time, and they taught and we learned the history of how they came to America.
But I just want to put that out there too, that your uncle did get his papers, which is important as well. A lot of times people say, well, I had to pay all this money to get over here legally, but then these persons are over here illegally. Well, let me tell you something. Those same individuals are paying taxes here. And I think the 11 million or so that the immigrants that are here should get some type of relief, because they're paying taxes here, and they should be able to become citizens here in these United States. If they were blonde and blue-eyed, then it would be okay. But because they come from a different part of the world, there's issues. It doesn't matter where they come from, Haiti, or doesn't matter what country they come from. They need to become a citizen.
Right. And not only that, when you bring up that topic, it opens the door for what is going on south of the border. Are the kids and people still locked up in cages? Where have these children gone? Nobody has talked about it. And then when I heard they were still deporting Haitians back to Haiti, versus because of where they found them, where they were living, and how they migrated to America, because again, they were looking for an opportunity to have a better life. But again, if it's a Black person, they corrals them around with horses, trying to move them. They were going from one part of the border over to the next part to get food. And what happened with those people, Calvin?
Well, I don't know, but you just sort of made chills come over my brain when if you saw what they were doing south of the border on the horses and the whips, trying to corral human beings like they were doing cattle. which is to me is so outrageous. But yet we didn't hear. It was a story for a couple of days, and then it was forgotten about. We need to make sure that when things happen, we are on it all the time until it's fixed, until there's some type of resolution, because they get on this story, give you a little bit, and then it's forgotten about. We need to make sure that we don't forget it. That's why we, right here at Austin Radio, using politics today, Renee Boston Hill, we don't let you forget. We bring it up because it needs to be brought up and exposed.
Okay, so today is Monday, February the 7th. The year is on a kickstart. It's moving fast. And we're here at Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM WBIS. We are here every single Monday at 10 a.m. And we always want to thank our listeners, Calvin, for, because they're very dedicated to us.
Well, you're not on it. You are so right. We have individuals that tune in every Monday at 10 o'clock, right on as soon as we're on, they're on. And then they're emailing us, they're texting us, letting us know, but I'm going to say to them, give us a call every once in a while, because you give us your thoughts in writing, give us your thought, verbally on the phone. That's what you can do for us too.
252-756-2008. And again, we thank Awesome Radio for giving us this voice where we can just give a little tidbit of news or things that we've been thinking about. One of the things that, and I have a good friend who lives in Virginia, they have a new governor. And the governor has put in a lot of executive orders saying that he doesn't want mask mandates in schools and everything else. He wants teachers and kids to go to school without a mask. And the parents, they said, no, you're not going to do that to my child. And again, a lot of times with these legislators, these governors are making decisions, their children are either in private schools, they're either in private schools, they're in charter schools, and who is in the public schools where they're making these decisions are Black and brown children. There's white children there too. But again, what they did is that they took it to a court where a judge was actually said that, no, you will not knock down the mask mandates. You will not say to teachers and children, you don't have to wear a mask. They do have to wear a mask. And this is what we have to do when we have governors that are going around making decisions that can have an impact on our children. Well, then we need to, number one, find out, do they have children in the schools that they're making these decisions for? Do they have what kind of books or what kind of parent are they that now they're in school boards and they're making these decisions? We have got to be able to have an impact, okay, for our children. We have got to be the voice for our children. We have got to be the voice for the voiceless, because without us talking and having these conversations, we can have people in school boards that are saying, oh no, we don't want them to wear the mask. And I'm saying, if I send my child to school, what do you think a child would do, Calvin? Okay, we send our granddaughter to school. She has a mask on, and she gets into school, and they have an option to wear a mask or not to wear a mask. What do you think our 12-year-old?
Well, I can tell you, they're not going to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And not only that, Renee, but even right now, we have to be so cautious, because when they come out, a lot of time you see all these students walking out, they have the mask on, but it's below the nose. And I always say to individuals, why wear a mask if you're going to put it below your nose? Because that's where you're breathing in this virus. You're not going to breathe it in through your mouth. You're going to breathe it in through your nose. And you go out to the stores, you see the same thing. People are wearing the mask around the chin, around the mouth, but not around the nose. And we need to make sure that we cover the nose.
That's right, because this virus, again, is live and kicking. And I'm glad that the parents stood up to the governor. And this is what more people and more parents, because when they expose you to the virus, you won't necessarily get the drugs that they can get if they get the virus. There are drugs out there. I think Pfizer is creating a pill that will help cut the time that when if you do get the virus, and it has been proven, okay, that if you have all your shots, you have the 3 shots, then you're protected even if you do get it. Yes, there are plenty of breakthroughs. People say, I got the virus, I got the vaccines, but I did get the virus, but you didn't die. You're here alive to talk about how you did not die from this virus.
And
So
the virus, a lot of people are not talking about the COVID-19. A lot of them are talking about the Omicron, but either one of them, you don't want to get either none of them because they will take you out if you are unvaccinated. So many individuals I talk to, they say they've had a breakthrough and it was mild. But then I say, well, have you been vaccinated? They have had the vaccination, they've been had the booster, and that makes a big difference when you've had all 3 vaccinations, and you like I said, you had that booster. It makes a big difference. But yet you have so many people that don't want to wear a mask and they end up in the hospital, and then they say, well, I wish that I had got the shot. I wish I had wore a mask. But it's a dollar short and a day late.
yes, and again, it's one thing if you're just staying in your home and then and you're not exposing, but that's kind of like impossible that you don't have any connection to the outside and to people who are outside and then coming inside. And that's why Calvin and I we're very funny people because we don't want we're enjoying our lives,
Well, I think we are, but we want to continue enjoying our life because we don't want to get this virus, and we don't want people around us, you know, to get this virus. One of the things that I always say, Renee, this virus is like a thief that comes in your home and want to steal your health. Well, what do you do if a thief comes in your home? What are you going to do? You can protect your family. You can protect your loved ones. And in order to protect your loved ones, I say get the vaccination. Wear the mask. This will protect them. A lot of people say, I love you, but what does that word love mean? Does it mean just saying the word without the action? I always say if you say you love me, then you can protect me. And protecting me in these times is getting the vaccine and wearing the mask.
Okay, so that's enough on the mask.
Okay.
I don't know if people will get it because like I said, we know people who have died from the virus.
Yes.
We know people who are sick in the hospital and wish they had another chance. And I mean, like, what you can do, all right, listening audience, is that if you know someone who is unvaccinated, this gives you an opportunity to talk to that person and say, well, listen, I think it would be a good idea. And why, and tell them why you feel that, how you love them, and that they should get vaccinated. So this is your opportunity to do that. And then, next week, maybe you can call in and tell me, because again, elections have consequences. Anyone who is not registered to vote, this is your opportunity to tell them why it's important, and to, even if you had to take them to get registered, this is your opportunity to do that, because again, elections have consequences, and you want people who have a like mind like you to be voting. Again, we don't tell you here at Awesome Radio, News and Politics Today, who to vote for. But what we do is, like, we feel we're educating you to let you know, well, these are the options that you have. These are the candidates. You have incumbents who are in the position right now, will be seeking reelection. And you have new people who feel that they can bring something different to that particular position, and so they're now going to present you with their candidacy. But this is where you get to say, well, I'm going to do my homework, and I'm going to make sure that I look into the background of this person, because a person can say, well, listen, I'm all for public schools. I'm all for better education for all people. However, where are their children being educated? what have they been saying when in those back office meetings in terms of book banning, book burning, the critical race theory? These are key words that you need to be looking at. Every week we give words like the filibuster. We give words because these words are out there, and it's important that you understand the meaning because it does have a direct impact on your life. The fact that if you're a person of color in this country, all right, and they say to you, um, what is it? You can't vote, and you know that there was an opportunity to have bills passed in Congress, and people purposely did not sign on. There were no Republicans who voted for those bills that would have a direct impact on your ability to go to a poll and have your vote counted. Um, they did not vote to protect your right to vote. And so this time we're going to have to really be strong and forceful because we know that what worked, okay, was mail-in ballots. And sure, you might get that ballot, but if you're using it, it might be because you can't get to the polls to vote. So now, what are they doing? They're knocking down polling mail where you can deposit
Drop
the
boxes.
drop boxes, and they're limiting them, and they will be even be limiting them probably when you go to the polls where you're used to voting, you probably that poll site could disappear. And the whole thing is that again, we elections have consequences. That's
Well, Renee, not only that, but like you mentioned a good point too, because there was one county where they had 7 drop boxes with over 100,000 residents. Now they only have 1, so that makes a big difference. It makes it harder now for individuals to vote, and the handicapped people. A lot of times they can't get out of the vehicle, so they can just drive up to the polling place, and someone would come out and take their information, and they'd be able to vote right there in their vehicle, because they would drive over, like a little bell would ring inside, and a ballot they will come out and take care of them. But they're trying to even take that away. There's so many things that they're trying to take away from individuals because of the voting. Because of what happened in this last voting. So many African Americans, people of color, voted to get Biden and Kamala Harris into office. And now all of a sudden, they want to take the voting from everyone of that are that Black and people of color, Renee.
okay. So, and I just want to read this because now the maps have been drawn. Okay, so maybe someone, an incumbent that you might have voted for in the past, you might not be able to vote for them because the lines have been redrawn. You have to stay on top of that. But I'm reading this. Today's ruling is an unequivocal win for North Carolina Black voters who were most harmed by the extreme partisan and gerrymandering. So they had drew maps, okay, because again, here in North Carolina, our our okay, I just want to talk real quick. Our person who was drawing the maps have now said that no, those maps are illegal, and they have put the power back in our communities so we can have proper representation. Well, our show is coming to an end again, Calvin, and what we do know, all right, is that we are here every Monday. We're here at Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. And we're also live on the TV, local TV channels, Facebook. You can find us in so many different places. And we just thank you again for your support. Anything to
YouTube.
say? YouTube also. That's right. You can look at us on YouTube. So, and just go to Awesome Radio. And then you can search the shows that you would like to see repeated.
And you can always call us in and talk about a different topic that we're talking about, as long as this is a okay topic, But we need to say thank you to all our Awesome Radio listeners for tuning in every Monday, 10 a.m. to listen to us and watch us.
Okay. So, and again, check out the maps. Um, Always Google to make sure that you have not been purged from the voting rosters, and also look and see who your new what districts you've now been pushed into. You need to have be educated on that because now you might have to find a new person to vote for.
And, it's so important to check that out because we didn't know unless we checked it out who our representatives were in District 1.
Right. All righty. So thanks a lot again, listening audience.
My back is against the wall. More bills than money to pay, but I know just who to
Have
call
a great
on
week.
when I need
Thank you so much for listening.
I pray to help me fight precious, the precious love.